Well, hello, my fellow Americans. All the uproar and continual media coverage of the book Fire and Fury by journalist Michael Wolff and the unending defense of President Trump has prompted me to write about self-reliance. We seem to be marching down that tunnel for a long time is a caption for a drawing by Herring in 1901 for The First Men in the Moon by H.G. Wells. This is just it. President Trump is going to keep marching down the tunnel of self-defense if he continues his current tirades. I mention H.G. Wells because Trump indeed needs to become the invisible man. The story of the invisible man by H.G. Wells begins with a man entering an inn run by Mrs. Hall. He was a welcome guest due to the harsh weather conditions outside, and at the same time, Mrs. Hall sensed the man was no haggler, which hence was the accustomed speech at Ipping Inn. So she went about preparing him a meal, thinking he was a sign of good fortune. The man became a curiosity to Mrs. Hall and her aide. They figured this man was a sign of good luck, since not many passed by in the winter time. As the stranger in our story, I do think President Trump is a sign of good fortune for America, and he should remain somewhat of a curiosity to the public. It is wiser to be the invisible man who holds in his hand great promise of the future than defending everything one does. This, in the long run, will eventually reveal Trump's frailty if he continues to do so. Self-defense can and eventually will erode a person's self-confidence. If Trump would just lead the country without caving into his critics, his valor would become the essential strength of his noble acts. It would gain the admiration of the public, who right now only see a man who is defensive and self-promoting. Self-promotion has always been the danger sign in politics, revealing men do not have a deep understanding of American life, just self-interest and admiration. Richard Neustadt wrote in his book, Presidential Power, that the greatest catastrophic mistake the American people can make is electing a president who has no political experience. If Trump continues to defend himself, he just may prove this prophecy right. The president seems to be proving himself a haggler. What people think about him is their problem. Presidents are not to worry about what other people are thinking of them. They are to lead the country. Trump, worrying about his reputation, is taking this position. And taking this position, he is leading from behind, not the forefront. He is disputing over what is said of his presidency and what is said personally about him. It is a grand error, and it does not stop there. Mike Huckabee, Dr. Jeffress, Steve Bannon, Sean Hannity, Geraldo Rivera, Fox News, and Gorka, and countless others have been rushing to the defense of the president. Why? Joseph Campbell wrote, "What will they think of me? Must be put aside for bliss." In Trump's case, in my estimation, it must be put aside not for bliss, but leadership. On many occasions, I have written about Huckabee's defense of the president in his comparing him to Churchill. On my Twitter account, I wrote, "The comparison is ludicrous. I support the president. Yet let me remind us all, Churchill did not have men roaming the English countryside praising him. Churchill was tempered in political battle, and so should Trump receive battle scars fighting through the gathering storm on his own." I also wrote, "I am for a man proving himself. I recently chided Huckabee praising Trump as a Churchill. My point was Churchill earned his battle scars in the heat of battle, and so should Trump. Men touting and praising Trump, in my estimation, is imitation." I responded to Fox News airing of a Dr. Jeffress segment defending Trump this way. "Look, folks, I am not for Jeffress and Huckabee to name a few defending President Trump. Whoso would be a man must be his own. He must be battle-tried and carry himself in all opposition. Again, Churchill did not have men roaming the countryside praising him. Trump must be a man, not a parade float." My friends, history continues to prove Saints and good men walk alone. I think the president should treat the discontent of the multitudes with ignorance. Do you think if you do not guard yourself, you will be misunderstood? Socrates, Jesus, Luther, Galileo, Newton, and every wise spirit was misunderstood. To be great is to be misunderstood. Or as the old sage says, a great man does not have to prove he is great. He already is. Otherwise, you look like you are desperate. No offense, folks, but do we all need a course in self-reliance? My goodness, Daniel Webster had to compromise. Adams and Jefferson were at odds. Lincoln was fought on slavery. These were self-reliant men, and their names are written in history. This, to a degree, proves my position concerning Trump. There is a worthy note concerning self-reliance. If a man gives himself over to never counting the consequences, it may produce an irreversible dislike of his actions. Men that are genuine are usually forgiven of their errors, but those who carelessly cumber themselves in irresponsible behavior find themselves the disdain of hundreds, if not thousands, of individuals. This due to the fact their character has now become an account of the public. We in the information age have forgotten that society is always in a conspiracy against the citizens of the world. Men who make a difference must be a nonconformist. This becomes impossible when men with no self-reliance reveal everything about themselves. Nothing is any longer a sacred integrity of character. It is an open book and an open game for those who wish to impose penance upon others. The self-reliant man is one who in the midst of the crowd keeps personal solitude and never puts himself in the position of the psychological slavery of others. Teddy Roosevelt, FDR, Truman, Eisenhower, JFK, all possessed a strong character that wisely outsmarted their critics. They all had one thing in common. They all took time to stand still. They knew the invaluable importance of solitude and quiet time to think. All great leaders and thinkers show they set aside a time of day to be still, to be in solitude. They understood that in silence they had better distinction, clear thought, and prudent judgment. How often in the Scriptures do we read of Christ withdrawing himself from the multitudes to be in prayer? Men who withdraw themselves from the surface of the world, waiting for a quickening word, receive inward assurances of how to act. Wisdom that is enlivening, charismatic, energetic, giving a perfect sense of self-confidence that is usually passed on to others. A power of assured action that is fearless. President Trump and our society are facing a difficult challenge. That is when our intuition is telling us not to do something, we still do it. And find out too late it does not work, and sometimes at great cost. There are great terrors in life, and we have not in this generation manned ourselves or set aside time to think about it. Too often the destruction of life and disappointment from others has come from close quarters or friends whom we thought were trustworthy. It is too late to be sympathetic for the damned, and it is too late for us if we do not listen to the wisdom of the day. I leave you with this quote from Emerson. Great men, great nations have not been boasters and buffoons, but perceivers of the terror of life, and have manned themselves to face it. So be it, my fellow Americans. God bless you, and God bless the United States of America.